At number 10 spot, we have the Mercy Brown Vampire Incident. Many of you guys might know about this one. The Mercy Brown Vampire Incident took place in 1892 on Exeter, Rhode Island. At the time, the town was plagued by a series of deaths caused by a mysterious illness which is now known today as tuberculosis. However, at the time, they believed it was a curse placed on the town by vampires. The incident centered around the Brown family, who had lost several members to the illness. In an effort to lift the curse and save the remaining family members, it was decided that the body of the recently deceased daughter, Mercy Brown, would be exhumed and her heart would be burned. This was because when they checked up on all the family members, they noticed that she was showing no sign of decomposition and there was still blood in her heart. On the night of the exhumation, a group of men gathered at the cemetery to perform the ritual. As they were prepared to burn her heart, one of the men noticed that there were fresh blood on her lips. This was seen as a sign that Mercy was in fact a vampire, and the decision was made to also burn her liver and stake her through the heart to ensure that she could never rise again. The incident caused a sensation at the time and was widely reported in the newspaper. It was sparked debate about the existence of vampires and the proper way to deal with them. Despite the efforts of the men in the cemetery that night, the illness continued to plague the town, leading many to believe that the curse was never truly lifted. At a number 9 spot, we have Fingernails Freddy. Fingernails Freddy was a notorious figure in the small town of Cumberland, Rhode Island. Known for his long, sharp fingernails that were rumored to be laced with poison, Freddy was what many people feared. He was said to have been born with a rare genetic condition that caused his nails to grow at an alarming rate, and he honed his deadly claws by sharpening them on the stones of the local river. Despite his fearsome reputation, no one knew much about Freddy's past or why he had chosen to live in isolation in the woods around the town. Some said that he was a former circus performer who had been cast out by his troupe for his dangerous and his unpredictable behavior. Others whispered that he was a mad scientist who had conducted gruesome experiments on animals in his secret laboratory deep in the forest. Regardless of what he was, it wasn't until 3 kids got murdered in the woods here when the town started to believe in the legend more. But as the years passed, Freddy's reign of terror began to fade, and the legend ends with a group of brave hunters venturing into the woods to track him down. And apparently they eventually cornered Freddy in his lair, and yeah, you get the rest. At number 8 spot, we're the Flying Dutchman of the Narragansett Bay. Flying Dutchman time! Oops, not that one. The Flying Dutchman of the Narragansett Bay is a ghost ship that is said to sail the waters of the bay and cursed to roam the seas for eternity. According to the legend, the Flying Dutchman was once a mighty ship that plied the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. It was commanded by a fearless captain and crewed by a dedicated and loyal team of sailors. However, the ship met its doom when it was caught in a violent storm off the coast of Rhode Island. Despite their best efforts, the captain and his crew were unable to save the ship. It was battered by the storm and eventually capsized, sinking to the bottom of the bay. The captain and his crew were all lost, and their spirits were doomed to roam the waters of the bay till the end of time. Since that fateful day, the Flying Dutchman has been sighted many times by locals and visitors to the bay. Some have even claimed to have heard the ghostly voices of the captain and his crew crying out in desperation and despair. Many believe that the Flying Dutchman is cursed and that anyone who sees the ghost ship will suffer a terrible fate. Some have reported feeling a sense of fear and dread when they come into contact with the ghost ship, as if they're being warned to stay away. At our number 7 spot, we have the Newport Tower. The Newport Tower is a mysterious stone structure located in the city of Newport, Rhode Island. The origins of the tower are shrouded in mystery, and it has been a subject of much speculation and debate over the years. Some believe it was built by Vikings, while others believe it was built by Portuguese explorers. Regardless of who built it, according to the legend, the Newport Tower is said to be cursed. Locals claim that anyone who dares to enter the tower will suffer a terrible and most of the time gruesome fate. Despite the warnings, many people who have ventured inside of the tower have reported strange and inexplicable occurrences. The most common things reported here are screams of disembodied voices and the feeling of something or someone holding your ankle. One of the most chilling stories associated with the tower is that one day a group of young students decided to spend the night inside here. And only after one night, the students were never seen or heard from again, and their fate remains a mystery to this day. The legend of the Newport Tower continues to captivate the imaginations of locals and visitors alike. Despite the many theories and stories surrounding the tower, its true origins and purpose still remains a mystery. Some say it is a portal to another realm, while others believe it holds the key to ancient secrets and hidden knowledge. But what do you guys think is inside here? Could it just be an old lighthouse? Who knows? At our number 6 spot, we have the Paron Family. The Paron Family haunted house is a true story that has been adapted into a popular horror film called The Conjuring. The Paron family, consisting of husband Roger, wife Carolyn, and their 5 daughters, moved into a large secluded farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island in 1971. At first, the family was excited to move into their dream home, but they realized that something was not quite right. Strange noises and eerie presences were felt throughout the house, and the family began to experience terrifying occurrences on a daily basis. The haunting became more and more intense, with objects moving on their own and furniture being thrown across the room. The family also heard footsteps, voices, and even saw ghostly apparitions wherever they went. Desperate for help, the parents turned to the renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren for assistance. The Warrens conducted a series of exorcisms and other rituals, but the haunting continued to escalate. The family was forced to live in constant fear, with some members even being physically attacked by the malevolent spirits that haunted the house. After living in the house for 10 years, the parents were finally able to break free from the spirits and move out. Today, the old farmhouse still stands, an eerie reminder of the terrifying events that took place within its walls. In the hump of our list, we have the Ladd School. The Ladd School is said to be haunted by the ghosts of former patients who once lived there. The Ladd School was founded as the Rhode Island School for the Feeble-Minded in 1908. It was originally intended to be a place where people with mental and physical disabilities could live and receive more care. However, over the years, the school had become known for its inhumane treatment of their patients, including instances of physical and psychological abuse. Many of the former patients who lived at the Ladd School have reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the halls and hearing strange noises coming from the empty rooms. Some have even claimed to have been touched or grabbed by unseen hands. One particularly eerie story coming from this place is of a former employee who worked at the school in the 1980s. They claim that one night while they were working the night shift, they heard a loud banging noise coming from one of the patients' rooms. When they went to investigate, they found the room was completely empty and the door locked from the inside. To this day, she had no explanation for what could have caused the noise, let alone whatever locked her inside of that room. Another ghostly encounter at the Ladd School involved a group of students who were visiting the school as part of a field trip. They reported seeing a ghostly figure standing at the end of a hallway, staring at them with a blank expression. When they approached the figure, it suddenly vanished right into thin air. At our number 4 spot, we're the Rose Island Lighthouse. The Rose Island Lighthouse is a historic and iconic landmark located in Narragansett Bay. Built in the early 18th century, the lighthouse has served as a beacon of hope and guidance for ships navigating the treacherous waters of the bay. However, over the years, the lighthouse has also gained a reputation for being haunted, with many people claiming to have experienced strange and unexplained occurrences within its walls. According to the legend, the ghost of a former lighthouse keeper named Captain James T. Waring is said to haunt the lighthouse. Captain Waring was the lighthouse keeper at the time of the American Revolution, and it is said that he died in the lighthouse under mysterious circumstances. His ghost is said to roam the halls and rooms of the lighthouse, and many people have reported seeing him or feeling his presence while they visit. Other stories about the lighthouse include the ghost of a young woman who's said to have drowned in the bay. Her ghost is said to appear on the shores of the island, beckoning to those who come near. However, the Rose Island Lighthouse remains a fascinating and mysterious place, and it is sure to continue to capture the imagination of those to hear its haunting tales. At our number 3 spot, we have the Brenton Point State Park. The Brenton Point State Park, located in Newport, Rhode Island, is a beautiful and peaceful place that is popular with tourists and locals alike. However, it is also the site of a scary legend that has been passed down through the years. According to the legend, the park is haunted by the ghost of a young girl who drowned in the ocean nearby. The story goes that the girl's parents were wealthy and lived in the mansion, but they were very strict and didn't allow her to have any fun. One day, the girl decided that she had enough of her mundane life and ran away to the beach. She was determined to have some fun and enjoy the freedom that she always craved. But as the sun began to set, the girl started to feel a sense of dread wash over her. She realized she had no way back home and that her parents would be very angry with her when they found out what she had done. Just as she was starting to panic, a handsome young man walked up to her and offered to take her home. The girl was relieved and gratefully accepted his offer. However, as they walked around the shoreline, the young man revealed that he was actually a ghost. He told the girl that he had drowned in the ocean years ago and that he'd been looking for someone to take his place in the afterlife. The girl was terrified and tried to run away, but the ghost grabbed her and dragged her into the water. Now it's said that the ghost of the young girl haunts the Brenton Point State Park, crying out for help and trying to warn others of the danger that lurks in the waters. Some people claim to have heard her cries late at night, while others say that they've seen her ghost wandering the halls or the mansion. Whether or not the legend is true, it is a chilling tale that is sure to give anyone who hears this a good scare. At our number 2 spot, we have the ghost of the Hanging Rock. The The ghost of the Hanging Rock is a chilling story that many people in Rhode Island hear about. The legend tells the story of a young woman who was brutally murdered on the rocky cliffs of Narragansett Bay. It was said that the young woman was a beautiful and active member of the local community. She was loved by many and had a bright future ahead of her. However, her life was tragically cut short, and now her ghost is said to haunt the area, appearing as a ghostly figure with long flowing hair. If you decide to take a visit to the bay, chances are you may hear her haunting voice calling out your name. If you do decide to investigate this voice, you'll probably feel her presence, with some describing a sense of coldness and fear when they are near the site of that sound. Despite the many theories and stories surrounding the legend of the ghost of the Hanging Rock, the truth about what happened to the young woman remains a mystery, and her ghost continues to haunt the area, serving as a reminder of the terrible tragedy that took place on the rocky cliffs of this bay. At a number 1 spot, we have the Foster Witch. The Foster Witch of Rhode Island is a well-known legend in the state. The story goes that the witch, whose real name is unknown, lived in the town of Foster in the 18th century. She was known for her magic abilities and was often sought out by locals who needed help for various problems. One day, a group of townspeople became fed up with the witch and decided to put an end to her ways. They gathered together and burned her at the stake, but as she was being consumed by the flames, she cursed the town of Foster, saying that it would suffer for what it had done to her. For many years after her death, strange and mysterious events occurred in Foster. Animals would behave oddly, crops would fail, and strange noises could be heard throughout the night. Some have even claimed to see the ghost of the Foster Witch wandering the town, seeking revenge for her death. Eventually, the townspeople realized they needed to make amends for their actions and appease the spirit of the witch. They held a public ceremony during which they apologized for what they had done and promised to honor the witch's memory. From that day on, the strange occurrences in Foster stopped, and the town was able to move on in peace. At number 10 spot, we have the Bennington Triangle. The Bennington Triangle, also known as the Vermont Triangle, refers to a mysterious area located in the southwestern region of Vermont where several people have disappeared under strange circumstances. Many say it's Bermuda Triangle's little brother, but that's not something to be proud of. The first recorded disappearance in the area occurred in 1945 when a man named Mitty Rivers went missing while hunting in the woods. Despite an extensive search, Rivers was never found again and is presumed to have passed away. Then in 1950, another man named James E. Tedford vanished while on a bus. This was odd because Tedford was an experienced hiker and was very familiar with the area, so his disappearance was even more puzzling. In the following years, several other people disappeared in the Bennington Triangle, including a young child who was never found ever again. Some people have suggested that the disappearances are related to the supernatural, citing the presence of UFO activity in the area and reports of strange lights and sounds in the woods. Others have suggested that the disappearances are the result of natural causes, such as the rugged terrain and harsh weather conditions in the area. Some even speculate that it could be the work of a serial killer who has never been caught. Despite the many theories, the mystery of the Bennington Triangle remains unsolved and continues to fascinate those who are interested in the paranormal. At a number 9 spot, we have the Pigman. The Pigman of Vermont is said to be a monstrous being with the head of a pig and the body of a man. He's said to roam the forests and fields of Vermont, stalking and preying on unsuspecting travelers who dare to venture into his territory. Many people believe that the Pigman was once a normal man who was cursed by a witch to take on the form of a monstrous pig-like creature. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is for certain: the Pigman is a terrifying and deadly force to be reckoned with. Those who have had the unfortunate encounter with this creature say that he is incredibly strong and fast, with razor-sharp teeth and claws that can tear a person apart in seconds. The Pigman is not only a physical threat, but also a psychological one. It is said that he can control the minds of his victims, making them see and hear things that are just not there. This causes them to be confused and disoriented, making it easier for the Pigman to attack and get the kill. Many people in Vermont live in fear of the Pigman and do everything they can to avoid encountering him. Some even go as far as to offer sacrifices to him, in the hopes that he will spare them and their loved ones. And when I mean sacrifices, I don't mean real human sacrifices. I just mean like pigs and like chickens and stuff. At a number 8 spot, we have the Hayden family curse. Legend has it that many years ago, the entire Hayden family of Albany, Vermont perished as victims of a curse. The origins of the curse are shrouded in mystery, but it is said that the Hayden family was once a powerful and wealthy clan. They lived in a grand estate surrounded by lush gardens and rolling hills. But despite their wealth and their privilege, the family was plagued by a dark secret. One day, a terrible tragedy struck the Hayden family. A young girl, the daughter of the family's patriarch, was brutally murdered in her bedchamber. The culprit was never found, and the family was consumed by fear, grief, and anger. As the time passed, the family's wealth began to dwindle, and they were forced to sell off their lands and their possessions. The once great Hayden estate fell into disrepair, and the family was left to wander the land cursed. The curse is said to manifest in different ways. Some members of the Hayden family have been struck by strange and subtle illnesses, while others have been plagued by terrible nightmares and visions of the dead. Still others have been driven mad by the weight of this curse, driven to commit acts of violence and madness. Despite the hardships they endured, the Hayden family remains strong. They continue to carry on their legacy, passing down the stories of their cursed ancestry to each generation. At a number 7 spot, we have the frozen people. In the early 1800s, a strange phenomenon began to occur in the remote mountainous region of Vermont. Reports began to spread of people being found frozen solid, their bodies perfectly preserved despite being exposed to harsh winter weather. Many of these frozen people were found high in the mountains near the tops of the state's tallest peaks. At first, people were baffled by this phenomenon. Some speculated that the frozen people were victims of some sort of natural disaster, while others believed that they were the result of a curse or supernatural event. But as more and more frozen people were discovered, a more scientific explanation began to emerge. It turns out that the frozen people of Vermont were actually victims of a condition known as mountain madness. This condition, also known as high altitude cerebral edema, occurs when the brain swells due to the effects of altitude and oxygen deprivation. At high altitudes, the air is thin and contains less oxygen, which can cause a number of problems for the human body. In severe cases, the brain can swell to the point when it cuts off its own blood supply, leading to death. However, in the cold, dry climate of Vermont's mountains, the bodies of those who died from the mountain's madness were preserved on the freezing temperatures. Over time, the bodies became encased in ice, preserving them in a state of suspended animation. As word of the frozen people spread, Vermont became a popular destination for those interested in the strange and unexplained. People came from all over to see the frozen bodies for themselves, and many of the frozen people were put on displays in museums for a temporary time. At a number 6 spot, we have the Black Shu. The Black Shu is a ghostly black dog the size of a calf with glowing red eyes. It is said to appear out of nowhere and cause terror wherever it goes. The legend of the Black Shu dates back to the early 1800s when a large black dog was seen roaming the countryside. Some people believe that the dog was a demon or other supernatural creature, while others just thought it was a ghost. One of the most famous stories about the Black Shu is the tale of the ghost of the Old North Bridge. The legend is said to be based off a real event that took place in the town of Concord, Vermont. The story goes that a young girl named Abigail was out walking one evening when she was attacked by a pack of wild dogs. She managed to escape by running across the Old North Bridge, but the dogs caught up to her and killed her. Now her ghost calls this bridge her home with a Black Shu by her side at all times. In the hump of her list with the hitchhiking ghost of Bennington. According to the legend, a young woman named Elizabeth was killed in a hit and run accident on a dark and stormy night. Her ghost is said to haunt the town, hitchhiking along the roads and highways in search of her killer. Many locals and visitors to Bennington claim to have seen the ghost, and there are countless of stories of people who have picked her up only to find her disappearing from the backseat of their car once they reach their destination. Some say that she appears as a young woman with long flowing hair and a white dress, while others describe her as a more ethereal, translucent figure. One of the most famous stories about the hitchhiking ghost of Bennington involves a young couple who were driving home late one night. As they were passing through the outskirts of the town, they saw a figure standing by the side of the road waving frantically at them. Thinking that she was in need of help, they pulled over and offered her a drive. As she climbed into the backseat, the couple noticed that she was deathly pale and cold to the touch. She didn't say a word, but stared straight ahead with a haunted look in her eyes. The couple became increasingly uneasy, but didn't want to be rude, so they continued on their way. When they reached the destination given by the hitchhiker, they turned around to offer the young woman their goodbyes, but she was gone. The backseat was empty and there was no sign of her anywhere. The couple was shaken by the experience, but they couldn't deny what they had seen. Many people still claim to have seen her ghostly figure hitchhiking along the roads of the town. Some say that she is still searching for her killer, while others believe that she is simply lost and just looking for a way home. Whatever the case may be, the hitchhiking ghost of Bennington continues to haunt the town to this day. And unlucky for you, if you're a hitchhiker in this town, chances are no one's gonna pick you up because of this. At a number 4 spot, we're the Boro Retreat Tower. The legend of the Boro Retreat Tower dates back to the early 1900s, when the Boro Retreat, a psychiatric hospital, was founded in the town of Boro, Vermont. One of the most striking features of the hospital was its towering Gothic-like style. Some say that the tower was also used to perform experimental treatments on patients, including electroshock therapy and other inhumane treatment methods. These were said to be incredibly painful and often left patients worse off than before, with some succumbing to their injuries as a result. One particularly chilling tale involves a patient who was said to have been driven mad by the treatments he received in the tower. The patient was allegedly so disturbed by his experience that he took his own life, hanging himself from one of the tower's rafters. Some say that his ghost can still be seen hanging from the rafters, his face frozen in a haunting expression of terror and pain. Another story tells of a nurse who worked at the hospital during the height of its use of a mental institution. The nurse was said to have been kind and compassionate, but was driven to madness by the horrors she witnessed at the hospital. Some say that she could still be seen wandering the tower, and her ghostly figure is seen searching for the patients she once cared for. Number 3. Converse Hall. Once upon a time in the small town of Burlington, Vermont, there was a legendary hall known as the Converse Hall. Built in the early 1900s, the hall was a popular gathering place for the townspeople, hosting everything from community events and concerts to weddings and parties. But as the years went by, strange and eerie things began to happen within its walls. It is said that on dark and stormy nights, the ghosts of former residents can be seen wandering the halls, with their faint whispers and footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. Some say that the ghosts are restless spirits of those who passed away in the hall, unable to move on into the afterlife. One of the most famous ghostly inhabitants is a young woman named Sarah. She was a beautiful and vivacious young woman who loved to dance and sing, and was often seen at the hall's many social events. But one fateful night, Sarah disappeared without a trace, leaving her family and friends devastated. It is said that her spirit was seen in the hall, dancing and singing to the music that only she could hear. Some say that the ghosts of Converse Hall are not the only supernatural beings that haunt it. Some say that those who spend the night in the hall are never the same again, forever changed by the supernatural forces that dwell within its walls. Number 2. Emily's Bridge. This bridge was named the Gold Brook Covered Bridge, but many locals from Vermont consider this to be Emily's Bridge. The bridge tells the story of a young woman named Emily who lived around the bridge in the 19th century. She was a beautiful and kind-hearted person, and she had many friends and admirers. One day, Emily met a handsome young man named James who swept her off her feet with his charm and his good looks. They quickly fell in love and decided to get married. However, not everyone was happy about the relationship. Emily's father was a wealthy and powerful man, and he did not approve of James. He believed that James was not good enough for his daughter, so he did everything in his power to prevent the two from getting together. Despite the father's efforts, Emily and James managed to elope and get married in secret. However, their happiness was short-lived, as James was killed in a tragic accident just a few weeks later. Emily was devastated by the loss of her beloved husband, and she became consumed by grief. Then one night, Emily was seen walking out onto a local bridge, standing at the edge of it, gazing down into the river below, when she decided to throw herself off the bridge to her death. Some say that Emily's ghost can still be seen wandering the bridge, searching for her lost love. However, if you do spot her, it just means that you'll have bad luck real soon. At a number 1 spot, we have the Vermont Vampire. The Vermont Vampire is an iconic entity known throughout Vermont. The legend goes that there was once a man named Abel Fry who lived in a small town in Vermont. Abel was known to be a reclusive and strange man who kept to himself and was rarely seen outside of his home. However, one day, Abel fell ill, and despite the best efforts of the town doctor, he eventually passed away. However, shortly after Abel's death, people in the town began to fall ill with a mysterious illness that seemed to drain their life from them. As the deaths continued, people in the town began to suspect that Abel was somehow responsible. They believed that he had returned from his grave as a vampire and was using his undead powers to drain the life from the townspeople. The townspeople decided to take action, and they gathered around to exhume Abel's body. When they opened his grave, they were shocked to find that his body had not decomposed and instead had looked as if it recently passed away. Fearing that Abel was indeed a vampire, the townspeople drove a wooden stake through his heart and burned his entire body. After this, the mysterious illness that plagued the town quickly disappeared, leading many people to believe that they indeed vanquished a vampire. To this day, the legend of the Vermont Vampire continues to be told, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of the undead. At a number 10 spot, we have the LaLaurie Mansion. According to the story, the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans was home to a wealthy and socialite named Delphine LaLaurie, who was known for her lavish parties, but on the other side, she was also known for her cruel treatments of her slaves. The legend of LaLaurie Mansion began in the early 1800s when Delphine was rumored to have inflicted terrible atrocities on her slaves. This included torture, mutilation, and even murder. It is said that she kept a secret room in the mansion where she performed these horrific acts, and that the ghosts of her victims still haunt the property to this day because of this. One of the most famous stories associated with the mansion involves a fire that broke out at the property in 1834. As the fire raged, neighbors and passerbys reported seeing slaves who were chained and shackled, screaming and begging for help from the windows of the burning mansion. When the fire was finally extinguished, the bodies of several slaves were found in the ruins, including one who had been hanged and another one who had been disemboweled. Over the years, the LaLaurie mansion had gained a reputation as one of the most haunted houses in the United States, and it's said to be visited by ghost hunters and paranormal investigators from all over the world. Even Nicolas Cage owned the home for some reason, but probably because of the infamous story around it. Many claim to have experienced strange and unexplained phenomena at the mansion, including unexplained noises, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. Some have said that they've seen the ghosts of Delphine LaLaurie's victims wandering the halls of the mansion, still trapped in their chains and shackles that held them captive in life, and now it holds them captive in death as well. Many people are drawn to the mansion out of morbid curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghosts that are said to inhabit it, while others are simply drawn to the dark and eerie history of the property. Regardless of the reasons, the LaLaurie mansion remains a fascinating and mysterious place and will be forever remembered as the most haunted home in New Orleans. At a number 9 spot, we have the Grunch. The Grunch Road Monster is an alleged chupacabra sighting in New Orleans, Louisiana that has captivated the imagination of local residents for centuries. The Grunch is described as an elaborate cross between a canid and reptilian chupacabra and is said to be more intelligent and adaptable to its surroundings than its counterparts in other parts of the world. According to the local folklore, the Grunch has leathery or scaly skin with sharp spines or quills running down its back, and it stands at a height of 3 to 4 feet tall. It is said to have a strong and unpleasant smell, and they are said to be able to use tools and open doors like primates. Some reports have suggested that it has wings and a tail as well. The Grunch is known for its aggressive behavior and has been reported to attack animals and humans alike, leaving behind mutilated corpses. There are various stories about the origins of the Grunch, including a legend involving a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. According to the story, Marie Laveau castrated the devil baby when he was born, and the result was a male and female Grunch falling to the floor. The Grunch then attacked Marie Laveau, nearly killing her before disappearing. The legend is said to be the reason why Marie Laveau gave up her voodoo practices and returned to being a good Catholic woman. At number 8 spot, we have the Ruguru. The legend of the Ruguru has been part of the folklore of the Cajun people of Louisiana. This mysterious creature is said to roam the swamps and bayous of the region, preying on those who dare to venture out into the wilderness at night. According to the legend, the Ruguru is a werewolf-like creature with the ability to transform into a wolf or a human at will. It is said to be incredibly fast and agile, able to move through the dense undergrowth of the swamp with ease. Some versions of the legend describe the Ruguru as a supernatural being that is cursed to roam the earth, while others portray it as a human who has made a pact with the devil in exchange for the power of transformation. The Ruguru is said to be a formidable and terrifying creature to those who encountered it, and those who have seen it in real life have said it had glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and a bloodthirsty desire for human flesh. Those who encounter the Ruguru are said to be at great risk of being attacked and dying, and many people in the Cajun community still take great care to avoid the swamps and bayous at night for fear of encountering this creature. Despite its reputation, the Ruguru is also a powerful symbol in Cajun folklore. It is often used to warn people of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness, especially not to visit them at night. Some people believe that the Ruguru is a real creature that exists in the wetlands, while others just see it as a myth or a symbol of the unknown. Regardless of whether or not it's real, the Ruguru remains an important part of the cultural heritage of the Cajun people, and its legend continues to be told and passed down through the generation. Number 7, the vampire Comte de Saint-Germain. The legend of Jacques Saint-Germain, also known as the Count of Saint-Germain, has captivated and puzzled people for centuries. According to the legend, Saint-Germain was a mysterious and charismatic figure who appeared in New Orleans in the 1900s and claimed to be a descendant of the Comte de Saint-Germain, which was a historical figure from the 18th century with ties to King Louis himself. The Comte de Saint-Germain was rumored to be immortal and not to age past 40, and it was suggested that Jacques Saint-Germain was also immortal, suggesting that he may be a vampire. In addition to his supposed immortality, Saint-Germain was also rumored to exhibit vampire-like behavior. One instance of this was when he allegedly attacked a woman and bit her neck, causing her to jump from his balcony to escape. When the police arrived to investigate, they found bloodstains on tablecloths throughout his home, as well as bottles mixed with wine and blood. Even at parties, Saint-Germain was never reportedly seen eating and was always holding a glass of red liquid, which some people suspected was blood. Despite these strange occurrences, Saint-Germain remained a respected and well-liked member of the community. However, he eventually disappeared as mysteriously as he arrived, leaving behind only a trail of rumors and legends. To this day, the true identity and nature of Jacques Saint-Germain remains a mystery. While some believe that he was a real person with supernatural powers, others believe he was just purely a legend and a myth. At a number 6 spot, we have the Carter brothers. The city of New Orleans is known for once having the Carter brothers named John and Wayne. These two men are said to have been vampires sometime in the 1930s. According to the legend, the pair would capture their victims and hold them in their shared home, where they would drain and drink their blood. So one day in the early 1930s, a young girl managed to escape from the Carter home and ran frantically down the streets until a police officer spotted her. She told the officer that she and others had been held captive in the Carter house with their wrists cut to enable a slow bleed. The girl either took the officer back to the Carter home or was rushed to the hospital, depending on the version of the story. When the police arrived at the Carter home, they discovered the bodies of over a dozen victims with their wrists slit and their blood drained. There are also at least 4 captives still tied up and bleeding from their wrists at the home. Some of the bodies were wrapped in sheets and all appeared as though they had been there for extended periods of time. In some versions of the legend, the police left 10 of their largest officers in the apartment to take on the alleged vampires when they returned to feed at night. When the brothers returned home that night, it reportedly took 7 to 8 officers to subdue them. Upon their arrest, the Carter brothers allegedly admitted to becoming vampires and asked to be killed, as they would continue to capture and drink the blood of their victims. They were tried and executed for their crimes, but many believe that they continue to haunt the streets of New Orleans, taking their place in the city's grand lore. The legend of the Carter brothers serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of monsters hiding in plain sight and the horrors that can lurk within the walls of even the most normal looking homes. In the hump of our list, we have the Bonnie and Clyde ambush site. The Bonnie and Clyde ambush site is a location where the notorious criminal duo Bonnie Parker and Clyde Boro were ambushed and killed by law enforcement in 1934. The site is located in Bienville Parish, Louisiana, near the town of Gibbsland. Bonnie and Clyde were known for their string of robberies and murders during the Great Depression, and they became infamous as symbols of the era's lawlessness and social upheaval. On May 23, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were driving through Louisiana when they were ambushed by a group of law enforcement officers who had been tracking them down for months. The officers fired over 130 rounds at the couple's vehicle, killing them both. Bonnie and Clyde's bodies were then taken to a funeral home in Arcadia, Louisiana, where they were publicly displayed before being buried in Dallas, Texas. Ever since, the ambush site has been a popular attraction, but not for all the good reasons. Because it's reported that on a full moon, you can still hear gunshots and faint screaming from the area, as though the incident is playing out again and again in some other dimension. At a number 4 spot, we have the Voodoo Queen. Mary Laveau was a well-known figure in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 19th century. She was a powerful and influential figure in the city's voodoo community and was often referred as the Voodoo Queen. Laveau was born in New Orleans in 1801, and she was descended from a long line of voodoo practitioners. She was known for her knowledge of herbal medicine, and she was said to be able to cure a variety of ailments through the use of various potions and spells. Laveau was also said to have the ability to communicate with the spirits, and many believe that she had the power to cast spells and curses on those who crossed her. Despite her reputation as a powerful and feared figure, Laveau was more so known for her charitable works and her willingness to help those in need. She was known to provide assistance to the poor and the sick, and she was highly respected within the voodoo community. Laveau's influence and fame extended beyond the voodoo community, and she was known to be visited by the people of all walks of life, including politicians and celebrities. She passed away in 1881, and ever since, many claim that if you visit her grave at the St. Louisville Cemetery and place a rose on her grave at midnight, there's a good chance your body will begin to levitate. At a number 3 spot, we have Le Faux Follet. Le Faux Follet, or the Will-o'-the-Wisp, is a term used in Louisiana folklore to describe a ghostly light that is said to appear in swamps, marshes, and other remote or isolated areas. According to the local legend, it is a mischievous spirit that lures travelers off their path or into danger, often with the intention of causing them harm. In some versions of the legend, it is said to be the spirit of a person who passed away from violent or premature death and is unable to rest until it has fulfilled some unfinished business or desire. This spirit is said to manifest itself as a glowing light that moves erratically and seems to have a life of its own. In some versions of the legend, it is simply a malevolent entity entity that delights in causing confusion and chaos for others. Despite its reputation, it is often depicted as a small glowing light that is difficult to discern from a distance. Some believe it can only be seen to those who are lost or in danger, while others claim that it appears only at night or in a foggy or misty condition. Many believe it is a sign of danger or misfortune, and that encountering it is a telltale sign of bad luck or even death. At number 2 spot, we have the Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana is a historic plantation home that is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of former slaves who were executed on the property. Built in the late 1700s, the plantation has a long and dark history, including several instances of murder and violence. One of the most well-known ghosts at the Myrtles Plantation is said to be that of a former slave named Chloe, who was executed by her fellow slaves after she was caught eavesdropping on their conversations. She is said to haunt the plantation house, where she is often seen walking through the rooms and the corridors. Some people have reported seeing her ghost, while others have reported hearing strange noises and feeling a presence in the house. Adding on to the tragedy of the home, the plantation's original owner, Clark Woodruff, was poisoned by his wife, who was later acquitted of her crime. Then another former owner, Judge Hardy, was shot and murdered on the property. These events, along with the many other tragic stories associated with the plantation, are said to contribute to its reputation as a haunted house. No wonder this is a haunted house. At number 1 spot, we have the Honey Island Swamp Monster. The Honey Island Swamp Monster is a cryptid that is said to inhabit the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana. It is described as a large humanoid with brown or black fur, long arms, and a barrel-shaped body. Some reports have described the creature as having the face that resembles a monkey or a human, while others have described it as having a more reptilian or amphibious appearance with alligator qualities. The legend of the Honey Island Swamp Monster dates back to the early 20th century, when it was first reported by a group of hunters who claimed to have encountered it by the swamp. Since then, there has been numerous reports of the creature reported by people who claim to have encountered it while exploring the place or living in the surrounding area. It was blamed for the many human and livestock deaths that occurred around this area, and ever since, people feared this monster to the point that they wouldn't even enter anywhere close to these swamps. There's been various theories proposed to explain the existence of this monster, including the possibility that it is a surviving population of a prehistoric creature, or even a new species of animals that has yet to be discovered by science. Others believe that the creature was raised alongside alligators from a homeless orphan who lived in the area. Regardless, the Honey Island Swamp Monster remains a mystery and is feared by everyone who lives near it. At number 10 spot, we have the Tommyknockers. The legend of the Tommyknockers originates from the state of New Mexico. The legend follows a group of miners when they stumbled upon a strange and powerful object buried deep within the earth. As they began to excavate it, they were overcome by its strange energy, which transformed them into these bizarre, violent creatures. These creatures were known as the Tommyknockers and were infamous for their ability to knock on the walls and ceilings of mines, warning other miners to stay away. The legend goes on to say that the Tommyknockers were incredibly powerful, with superhuman strength and the ability to control the minds of those around them. They all roamed the mines, causing destruction and mayhem wherever they went. Despite their fearsome reputation, some believe that the Tommyknockers could be reasoned with, and attempted to communicate with them in order to understand their motivations. While some people, on the other hand, believe that the legend of the Tommyknockers is based on a real event that occurred in New Mexico, which had a bunch of trapped miners. However, others viewed a purely fictional tale. Over the years, many people have come forward to speak about their encounter with the Tommyknocker, which only adds to this creature's mystery more. At a number 9 spot, we have a witch's heart. The legend of the witch's heart in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the forest near a small village. She was said to be able to cast spells and control the elements, and many people were afraid of her because of that. One day, the witch fell in love with a young man from the village, and she cast a spell on him to make him fall in love in return. The young man, however, did not want to be with this witch and tried to resist her spell at all costs. The witch became very angry and threatened to destroy the village if the young man did not return her love. Talk about needy. The villagers, who were afraid for their lives, pleaded with the young man to give in to the witch's demands, but the young man was brave and refused to give into it. Now the witch was extremely pissed, and she decided to cast a powerful spell that caused the ground to shake and the trees to sway. She summoned a storm that raged for 3 days and 3 nights, causing destruction and chaos throughout the entire village. Finally, the young young man, with the help of other villagers, was able to confront the witch and break her spell. The witch's heart was filled with so much anger and hatred that it just turned to stone, and she was never seen again. The villagers say that if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear the witch's heart beating beneath the ground, a reminder of the power of love and the dangers of anger and hatred. At a number 8 spot, we have Haunted Messa. The legend of the Haunted Messa in New Mexico dates back to the early 1800s. According to the legend, the Messa was once home to a Native American tribe who lived in harmony with the land and its natural resources. But as time passed by, the tribe grew greedy and began to exploit the land. They would strip it of its resources and cause great harm to the environment because of it. As a punishment for their actions, the spirits of the land rose up and cursed the tribe, causing them to be consumed by a terrible darkness. The tribe was never seen again, and the Messa has been haunted ever since by the spirits of the land. They are said to still roam the area at night, searching for those who dare to desecrate the land. Many people have reported strange and eerie occurrences on the Haunted Messa, including ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and mysterious lights. Some have even claimed to see the ghosts of the Native American tribe still wandering the Messa in search of redemption. Despite these stories, the Haunted Messa remains a popular destination for hikers and adventurers who are drawn to its rugged beauty and eerie atmosphere. Some say the spirits of the land are still watching over the Messa, protecting it from those who would seek to harm it. So if you hike here, stride carefully. At a number 7 spot, we have a Witch's Bridge. The Witch's Bridge is a legendary structure said to be located in New Mexico, although the exact location is unknown. According to the legend, the bridge was built by a woman who was shunned by the community because they believed she was a witch. The woman, who was determined to get her revenge, constructed this bridge using her own blood and bone, imbuing it with dark magic as well. As the story goes, anyone who crosses the bridge will be cursed with bad luck and misfortune for their entire lives. Some say that the bridge is guarded by the spirit of the witch, who emerges at night to haunt and terrorize hikers. Others believe that the curse can only be lifted by performing a complex ritual at the side of the bridge. Despite the legend, there is actually no evidence of a bridge matching the description in New Mexico. It is likely the story is a tall tale or a piece of folklore, rather than a true account of events. However, that does not stop people from being intrigued by the legend and people going out searching for this bridge. At a number 6 spot, we have a man in the black hat. The man in the black hat is a mysterious figure who is said to haunt the deserts of New Mexico. Some say that the man in the black hat was a gunfighter or a bandit who roamed the desert, preying on travelers and settlers who ventured too far from civilization. Others claim that he was a ghost or a spirit haunting the land and seeking revenge on those who had wronged him in life. Despite the many different variations of the legend, one thing remains constant. The man in the black hat was a fearsome and dangerous figure, feared by all those who came in contact with him. He is said to wear a black hat, a long coat, and a pair of guns by his side, and was said to be incredibly fast and extremely deadly with a gun. There's even one story of him single-handedly defeating a group of 10 raiders in less than a minute in an attempt to just save some settlers. Despite his heroic deeds, however, the man in the black hat was never seen again, and his fate remains a mystery to this day. Some say that he simply vanished into the deserts, never to be seen again, while others believe that he met his end at the hands of another enemy. Maybe he finally found peace and moved on to the afterlife. Haven't we thought about that? In the hump of our list, we have the hanging tree. The legend of the hanging tree in New Mexico dates back to the 1800s, when the area was a wild and lawless frontier. According to the legend, the hanging tree was a large tree located in the center of town, where criminals and outlaws were brought to justice by being hanged from its sturdy branches. The most famous story associated with the hanging tree is that of a notorious outlaw named Billy the Kid, who is said to have been hanged from the tree after being captured by a posse of vigilantes. Despite its reputation as a place of justice and punishment, the hanging tree was also said to be cursed, and many people believe that anyone who were hung from this tree would be doomed to haunt the town for eternity. Over the time, the tree became a symbol of fear and dread, and people avoided it at all costs, even during the day. Eventually, the town decided to cut down the hanging tree and burn it to the ground in an effort to rid the town of its dark history and the supposed curse that was said to be associated with it. Today, all that remains of the hanging tree is a small plaque on the spot where it once stood. At a number 4 spot, we have a witch's ladder. The legend of the witch's ladder in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the mountains and was known for casting spells and curses on those who crossed her. One day, a group of travelers stumbled upon her cabin and asked for shelter for the night. The witch agreed, but she secretly secretly cast a curse on them. Desperate to break the curse, the travelers sought help from a wise woman who told them that they must climb to the top of the mountain and gather a handful of the witch's hair in order to break the curse for good. The travelers managed to do this, but the witch chased after them using all the spells she knew. Using the hair as a talisman, the travelers outran the witch and made their way back down the mountain, where they burned the hair and finally broke the curse. From that day on, the mountain was known as the Witch's Ladder. Despite the fact that the legend of the Witch's Ladder is just a story, it continues to be told and retold in the American Southwest, reminding us of the power and determination and the importance of standing up to those who seek to do us harm. At number 3 spot, we have the Curse of the Full Moon. The Curse of the Full Moon is a popular tale told to many in New Mexico, and it involves a powerful medicine man who placed a curse on the land to protect it from the actions of early European settlers. The legend goes that the medicine man was a powerful shaman who had the ability to communicate with the spirits of the land and the animals that lived there. He was deeply connected to the natural world, and he would have a great reverence for the land and its inhabitants. However, when the European settlers arrived, they began to disregard the sacredness of the land and its inhabitants. They would cut down trees, hunt down the animals, and they would pollute the waters. The medicine man was outraged by the settlers' actions, and he decided to curse the land with a very powerful spell. And whenever the moon was full, the curse was said to be at its strongest, causing even more misfortune for those who dared to defy the spirits. Over time, the legend became well known throughout the region, and this is when people began to fear the power of the spirits and the curse. At a number 2 spot, we have the Ghost Lights. The legend of the Ghost Lights in New Mexico dates back to the time of the Native Americans who inhabited the region. According to the legend, the Ghost Lights were spirits of the dead who roamed the earth in search of their loved ones. These spirits were said to be the souls of warriors who were killed in battle, or of women and children who had died of disease or other natural causes. The Ghost Lights were said to appear as glowing orbs of light that floated through the air, moving silently and without any apparent direction. Many people have claimed to have seen the ghost lights and described them as eerie and settling, and some even reported feeling a sense of fear or dread when the lights were present. Despite this, however, many people also found that the ghost lights to be fascinating and mysterious, and they often went out of their way to try and catch a glimpse of these elusive spirits. In the recent years, the legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico has taken on a new dimension, with some people claiming to have captured video footage or photographs of the light. So if you guys want to see, go search it up on Google, and I promise you, you'll find one photo with it. At a number 1 spot, we have the Taos Hum. The Taos Hum is a mysterious low-frequency sound that has been reported in the town of Taos, New Mexico. It is described as a faint droning sound that is similar to the hum of a distant engine or the drone of a bee. Some people claim to hear the hum constantly, while others hear it occasionally. The source of the Taos Hum is unknown, and there are many theories about what could be causing it. Some believe that it is a natural phenomenon caused by geological activity or atmospheric conditions. Others speculate that it is the result of human activities such as underground military bases or secret experiments. One of the most popular theories of this is caused by aliens. According to the theory, the hum is a signal or communication from an extraterrestrial civilization. Some people even claim to have experienced strange encounters or sightings of unidentified flying objects in the area where the hum is heard. Despite the many theories, no one has been able to definitely explain the Taos Hum. The phenomenon remains a mystery and continues to fascinate and intrigue those who have experienced it. Some even claim that the hum has a strange, almost hypnotic effect on those who hear it, causing them to feel disoriented or dizzy.